Today is working for Elon Musk, day 4 of my new job working for Elon Musk. I have this new shirt. It was just a good idea and I could not do it. So yeah, occupy Elon. In what sense occupy Elon? Currently probably his mind. If I could get his thoughts on some things, that would be helpful. So day 4 of working for Elon Musk, and this is in regards to Neuralink. So his company Neuralink and what they do. So day 4 working for Elon Musk. So brief overview. From 1990, that's when I was born, to 2013, I had a blank mind. I don't know how people would describe that. It's the only mind I've known. So I don't know what other people's minds are, but I don't know how you would describe it. You could fill in the blank. I had good SAT scores. People would comment that I was strong in both my left hemisphere and right hemisphere with my brain, like the analytical side and logical side and the creative side and the artsy side. It would show up in ways like in MathCAD. When I was in college, I would use MathCAD to design quilt patterns. And I have a love for good logos. Good logos with well-designed geometry, like the Pegasus logo. So that's what my mind was like from those years. Here's the quilt patterns that I made and I would sell at craft fairs or online. And that's kind of some of the calculations I had a screenshot of in MathCAD to help with that. So that was from 1990 to 2013. And then from 2013 to 2024, well, I was in an environment that was harmful to my mind. It was very destructive to my mind. My mental health, my cognitive abilities, yeah, it brought harm to my mind during those years. And these are kind of all of the things that caused it. So psychological abuse, narcissistic abuse, where it's like they'll twist your words, they'll twist your mind. Oh, what were you, you weren't really thinking this, you were that, are you saying this? They'll just twist your mind, and they'll use word salad in conversations to wear down your mind. Coercive control, wolves in sheep's clothing, covert narcissists, hypocrisy, where people present one thing as a conviction but then they do another. So that hypocrisy, I think, is also damaging. Gaslighting, fabricating a different reality for you to live in. Arrogance, when people will say I don't do this, but they do that. Cognitive dissonance. I think with covert narcissists is where cognitive dissonance kind of is at play, because someone presents themselves as this compassionate, merciful person with good intentions, and then they have evil motives. So you're trying to reconcile those two things, where it's they present themselves as caring and compassionate and kind, but it's they can be so hurtful. So you try to your mind can't reconcile the two. Double-mindedness and confusion, disorientation, and doubt. So a lot of controlling people, they'll use confusion, disorientation, and doubt to kind of maintain control. So you never also deflection, when you try to hold them accountable, they'll deflect, they'll confuse, they'll shift the topic. So all these tactics for control, and it's all in the mental arena, to keep you from seeing things clearly of how they are, and their intentions and their actions, and their motives. So that was from 2013 to 2024. It was psychological warfare at times. A lot of counseling sessions, a lot of meetings with pastors, a lot of getting called into the office because I gave an evangelism testimony and I was teaching. Yeah, so a lot of psychological warfare, all under the guise of like pastoral counseling, meeting with the elders, da 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 da. And it was kind of like this is kind of like what kind of took place. It's a lot of like fear, intimidation, doubt, or like fear, intimidation, threats, pressure to kind of like get you to believe that you're the problem, or get you to believe something else took place, or use a lot of like fear and anxiety to like rattle your nerves, and you just want it to stop. So you'll like agree with them, you'll confess what it is that, you know, they're trying to make you do, they're trying to pressure you into doing. So a lot of tactics like this. The one on the right is Helly from Severance, where he's like brainwashing her with this script. So there's definitely a psychological warfare aspect at times, and I'm going to play a clip of someone else describing these meetings and you know, these pastoral meetings. He calls them, you know, intense. They can be intense. So I'm going to include that clip of I think he's describing the same situation.
That the elders had discovered that Josh Buice had these secret accounts, and in fact, you know, when the statement was released, I think it was maybe by the church, of what happened when the elders released their statement. Yeah, this is on the Praise Mill Baptist Church, praisemill.com, their statement regarding Josh Buice. This is May 12th. It says, in recent weeks, the elders of PMBC uncovered irrefutable evidence that Dr. Buice has, for the past 3 years, operated at least 4 anonymous social media accounts, 2 anonymous email addresses, 2 Substack platforms. These accounts were used to publicly and anonymously slander numerous Christian leaders, including faithful pastors, some of whom have spoken at G3 conferences. Several PMBC elders, so his own fellow elders he slandered, and others. These actions were not only sinful in nature, but deeply divisive, causing unnecessary suspicion and strife within the body of Christ, particularly within the eldership of PMBC. And so the elders rightly suspended Josh. They said that they presented him with this irrefutable evidence, which I understand is the secret accounts that they gained access to somehow, and that on May 4th in an elders meeting, they gave what they call clear and comprehensive evidence linking these accounts directly to him. So they confronted Josh for 2 hours. He continued to deny his involvement. You know, we've been in intense elders meetings, and you know how those things can go. I can't, well, we've been in some meetings where we've had to confront elders on sin, and it's just not easy. It's hard. But for 2 hours he denied it, and they had the evidence. They were showing him the evidence, and finally, after 2 hours, he admitted what he had been denying in that intense meeting for 2 hours. And they said that they had been asking him for years prior, are these your accounts? And he denied them. So, I mean, that just betrays something deep and dark and wicked going on in Josh Buice. And I don't say that with any malice. I mean, I've counted Josh a friend. We've cooperated on things. I've spoken at G3 conferences. He's spoken at founders conferences. And again, as I said, we helped them get going and cheered him on. And it's a sad thing. So when the elders discovered this, of course, they made the G3 board aware of it. So G3 called for his resignation. And that took a week or so. He didn't immediately resign, but they published a statement, the first of 2 statements, in which they said that, you know, Josh had resigned. They weren't confident or weren't sure about, or how they put it, something like, at this time, we're not certain that he's disqualified permanently from ministry. And you can read that G3 statement on their site. And people took exception to that. They said, what do you mean he's not permanently disqualified? If a man did all these things. Well, they were trying not to overstep the authority of the church. You know, that's a church decision. Elders have leadership in that. So I can appreciate that. And then they issued a clarifying statement where they said they were taking down all of Josh's articles and the content that populated their website. Just prior to that, Founders issued a statement because, as I was told by one of the elders, that I want to make sure I don't misquote this, so let me just read it. But that Vodi Balcom and I were most egregiously slandered among those whom Josh ridiculed and lied about in these secret accounts for the last 3 years. And so because of that, the elders sent me, or gave me permission, and was sent to me like 52 pages of documentation of snapshots of these accounts and things that he has said, things that he had done. And over the years, people would send me stuff, from this Grant Hawthorne or Big Eva Secrets, and they say, "Do you know this guy? And what's he saying about you?" And I mean, I didn't care because it's anonymous. I think I don't give time of day to that. So I would estimate at least 75 to 80% of the things that the elders sent me, I had never seen before, was unaware of. And so much of it has not been made public. And so much of it that has not been made public is worse than what has been made public. But it became very evident. And I'm not talking about just against me or against Founders or Vodi, but other things as well. And it was very evident. He was trying to destroy Founders. I mean, he was lying. He was insinuating things, being a whisperer, as the scripture speaks of. And so it's just tragic. It's tragic. The elders did encourage him, and he complied to at least some degree to apologize to some, not all, because he slandered a whole bunch of people. Some people that are not leaders in the Christian world, and I would think you'd want to deal with everybody that you slandered publicly. But he did reach out. He sent an email to me, and I think it was 21 other Christians that, many of whom would be recognized by folks in the Christian world, Reformed world especially. And it was a form letter, I'm sorry I've sinned, and I want to meet with you with one of my elders in a Zoom call. Please, will you give me 2 times that we can meet? And that came on like a Sunday, I think it was. I believe that was probably May 11th, that Sunday night. And I went to bed, but couldn't get it off my mind, and got up out of bed and wrote him a response. And it was a pointed response. Josh, this is what you've done. You need to consider what 2 Corinthians 7:9-11 says about repentance, and be honest and be humble, get people in your life that'll help you. Here are some times I can meet. And I've not heard back from him. I do understand he's met with a couple of people on that list, but he hasn't responded to me and at least one other man on the list that contacted me. So that's where things stand now. Obviously, he had a public statement too that G3 released, in which he acknowledges that what he did was sinful. Let me just read this statement. It's called Statement Regarding Vodi Balcom, and I think this came out on maybe the 16th or something like that, May 16th. He said, "In a past critique of Vodi Balcom and Founders Ministries, I made unsubstantiated and sinful remarks, including leading questions that lacked evidence, and called into question the good reputation of my brother Vodi Balcom. I was deceived by the deceitfulness of sin and allowed myself to be led down a path that dishonored God, and unjustly maligned faithful men and ministries through an unrighteous, critical spirit cloaked in anonymity. The details originally shared with me were without merit. The accusations proved to be unfounded, false claims that should never have been used to criticize Vodi Balcom, Tom Askell, or Founders Ministries." And so he's saying I lied, basically. But he also hints at some, people fed me this stuff. And so that raises a question.
There's a note of passivity in this statement that is highly inappropriate, I think.
Yeah, very, very problematic. You compare this to biblical repentance. You compare this to what happened, is it 2 Samuel 12, I think, or 13, where Nathan confronts David, and he tells that story, that parable, and David gets incensed, and then he says, "You are the man." And whenever he begins to tell David, this is what God is going to do in consequence of your sin, your child's going to die. Violence is never going to leave your house. You're going to be shamed publicly. The only thing David says is, "I have sinned against the Lord." That's the only words out of his mouth. Not, "I was deceived, people led me down a bad path." No, it's, I sinned against the Lord. And then after his child died and he had more time to reflect on it, Psalm 51. And what does he say there? Against you only have I sinned. Have mercy on me, O Lord. So yeah, this doesn't rise to the level of what we are taught in Scripture ought to be an expression of true repentance when a man sees his sin and agrees with God about what his sin is.
So, and I think Tom Buck has made statements to that effect publicly as well.
Yep. So that was Tom Ascol and Graham Gundin. So intense meetings, like this is, yep. So they confronted Josh for 2 hours. That's another thing. They'll like wear you out. They'll exhaust your mind. They'll get you tired so that you can't like think straight. You're confused. Your mind's exhausted. They'll wear down your mind to like get you to break. So they confronted Josh for 2 hours. We've been in intense elders meetings. You know how those things can go. It's hard. But for 2 hours, he denied it. So from what Tom Ascol is describing, these intense elders meetings, prolonged for many hours, it sounds like the same experience that I received when I was on the receiving end of elders and, elders meetings, counseling sessions. And then a lot of other, red flags I have highlighted where it's like they'll use these buzzwords, how they uncovered irrefutable evidence. This irrefutable evidence, they gave what they call clear and comprehensive evidence. They had the evidence, they were showing him the evidence. Finally, after 2 hours, he had admitted what he had been denying in that intense meeting for 2 hours. So they keep repeating like these buzzwords, and it's like to get you to believe it. Like, oh yeah, they gave him clear and it was clear and comprehensive evidence. Like, it's just, yeah. And then it's like they affirm the elders, and so the elders, rightly suspended Josh. So they'll speak of someone. It's like, these actions were not only sinful in nature. So it's just like a projection of like how you are to interpret the situation. The elders are good. The elders are doing everything rightly. Josh is super sinful. So some other red flags in that dialogue. But what he's describing in the meetings, intense meetings, that's kind of descriptive of what I've experienced too as like psychological warfare, and like damaging to one's mind. But just as a side note, the co-host with Tom, his name is Graham. He's my friend. I met him at a Ligonier conference a few years ago. He was working a booth for Reformation Bible College, RBC, and he was handing out copies of Sproul's commentary on John, the Gospel of John. And in our conversation, I remember him saying, like, I'm from Michigan, and he pointed to the place. I don't remember where he pointed to. I just remember seeing him being like, oh, I'm from Michigan, when I met him, and he was telling me where he's from in that instance. And then later I visited RBC, Reformation Bible College, for a class once, and the teacher was John Tweedale, and they were talking about this book called Hokema. And I didn't know who that person was, that author was at the time, and I thought they were talking about Pokemon Go. They're like, what'd you do this weekend? And this girl was talking about Hokema, but it sounded like Pokemon, and I literally thought she was talking about Pokemon Go, and I'm like, cool, because it was trending at that time, and I didn't know of this author, but they were talking about some book in class. And then that's where I learned about the hymn, God All Nature Sings Thy Glory, which became one of it might be my favorite hymn. And then after that, we had lunch at the food court, and a different professor was there. His name is Keith Matheson, and then Graham was also in that conversation. RBC, Reformation Bible College, and St. Andrew's Chapel, they are Presbyterian, but me and Graham, we're Reformed Baptist, so there's that connection of familiarity with Graham amidst the Presbyterians. But in that conversation, I remember Graham saying, he made the comment, I'm a Reformed Baptist and we're still affirmed as Orthodoxy. So a few details of my memories with Graham. I don't know how I can control what I remember and what I don't remember. I think it's like maybe what's needed. There's a lot of things I can remember. It's not like I'm ruminating on them. I'm kind of like looking forward and they don't bother me. But when I talk about certain things and I compile a PowerPoint, like I can remember everything. It's just kind of like not, I don't know, it's not like it's affecting me. I've kind of moved on, but I can still like remember and access that stuff. Side note on the sword and the trowel, their logo, my friend Paul made it, and when he made it, I caught this thing there on the right, that little sliver. I was like, Paul, you should slide it over a little bit. It bothers me. And he's like, yeah, good call. He had already sent it to them, so he didn't change it and send it back. He's like, well, I sent it to them. They've accepted it. So it's fine. I'm not going to change it. But he's like, you have a good eye for detail. Next time, you know, I'll have you proof my logos. Yeah. So then, well, after my mind was destroyed, from 2013 to 2014, well, from 2014 to present, God healed my mind. Yeah, I mean, I would give him, you know, primary credit for that work, but I was also present and an active participant. So, you know, I could say I self-healed my mind, but I know that God gave me the strength to do it and guided me in the process. And even though it was like maybe my own will driving it, I think God was ultimately the driving force behind me, maybe. So I would say God healed my mind and that I was present for it and an active participant. Primarily, I read the Gospel of Luke. So the author Luke, he's referred to as the beloved physician. And the Gospel of Luke is written in an orderly sequence. And it's very detailed and he's very reasonable and it makes sense and it's very literal and clear. And after all, you know, after a lot of passages where it's like there's a beginning and an end, there's a lot of, you see the resolve. It's like, and then he went back home. So it's like when a character is introduced, he like gives the background, why they're coming into play, talks about the actions, and then he'll say like, and this person did this and this person did this. So you see the resolve where it's like, and then he went back home. And I think just reading it, like regardless of one's belief on God and scripture, I think the way that Luke is written as a text in and of itself has like healing properties, just the way that he's reasonable, the way that his thoughts are sequential, and that reading this and like meditating on it, I think it helps kind of conform your own way of thinking, and it helps heal, you know, it can help heal one's mind. If you're coming out of a place where it's like confusion, disorientation, fabricating stories, nothing makes sense, this person did this and it's like, why would they do that? Oh, I did this because that, and it's like, that's not reasonable. So if you're coming out of those systems, I think reading Luke is just very helpful to, like, if you could conform your thinking and your speaking to how Luke writes, I think it's helpful, you know, for the mind, regardless of one's beliefs on, you know, if it's inspired or what they believe about the Bible. So the Gospel of Luke, and also reading the Gospel of John. And when reading that, it's like there's a distinction on, it talks about evidence. You know, these things are written that you can, you know, believe in the Son of God. So it talks about, you know, truth, belief, and knowing. So after reading the Gospel of John, I became more distinct on what do I know to be true and from what evidence, and then what do I believe to be true. So kind of clarifying in my mind, like, what do I know to be real? What do I believe to be real? And then being able to confess, I don't know. You know, like, I think that was a big emphasis in the system I was in, it was very like, you have to make mental assent. You have to believe in a literal seventh-day creation. You have to believe the 66 books are inspired scripture. You have to make a mental assent to this, but it's kind of believing without evidence. Yeah, so things like you needed to believe in a literal seventh-day creation. Earth wasn't brought forth until day 3, so I don't know how you would mark a day if there's not even a sun. So things like that just don't make sense. I don't know like what I think day just means division. I don't think it means a 24-hour period in that passage. But that's one example where it was like, they would emphasize you have to, say I believe in, literal 7-day, creation, or you don't believe in God, you don't believe the Bible. So being comfortable with saying like, I don't know. Is the earth flat or round? I don't know. Honestly, I think it could be both. That's a different topic. But being willing to confess, I don't know, to things that I don't know. I don't have evidence. I might believe certain things, but I don't know. And then tuning out the noise, just ignoring a lot of like thoughts and opinions of man. Psalm 94:11. And then also I kind of had the resolve that if I had any intellectual strength, I was going to use it to serve the weak. So after experiencing psychological abuse and being brought to a place where I was intellectually weak, and then coming out of it and seeing how people were using their mental strength to destroy the minds of others, it was like I could recognize that intellect, any form of strength and power is from God. So even like intellectual strength, I kind of had this resolve, like if I have it, I'm gonna use it to serve. It's not of myself. God can give it, God can take it away. Like Nebuchadnezzar, he removed his reason. So it's like I kind of had that acknowledgement, and I think that's also what helped kind of heal my mind, because I was using it for the purposes which God created it for. So in those systems where it's like there's all these tactics for silencing witnesses and victims, this plays back into something I said the other day about if it helps if I play the damsel in distress, I could do that, and there's truth to it. I was kind of thinking about this situation, and I was looking at kind of like the steps that they would take, and it's like, well, maybe it is more distressing than I'm aware of, and maybe I'm too careless about it. I don't know. But in regards to silencing witnesses and victims, these are kind of like the tactics that I've seen people take. It starts off with like grooming and conditioning. It's like, oh, well, no one will believe you. Like you can speak out against it, but no one will believe you. And then it's like they'll burden your conscience, coercive control. They'll say like, oh, you're gossiping, you're slandering. Why are you speaking evil about these guys? And it's like, am I the problem for saying that they're doing evil deeds? Or is it true that they're committing these evil deeds? And then they'll use fear, intimidation, and threats. And that's kind of in the form of like blackmail. They have knowledge of maybe past sin that you confessed. So they'll bring that up in the conversation as like threatening you with blackmail. Hey, I remember when you confessed that you did this, and I know that you did this. That's also a tactic. And then they'll threaten church discipline. You're not submitting to your elders, whatever, to kind of exile you out of the community. And then after that, if it doesn't work, well, then they'll start to discredit you with a smear campaign. If they get the impression that they can't keep you silent, if they can't control you from speaking out, well, then the only option is to control how you're interpreted, how you'll be perceived. They can only control the hearers. They can render your words empty in the hearers so that no one will, believe what you're saying. So then they start, a smear campaign with Josh Bice. It's like, oh, well, he's a liar. He's in sin, you know, very disturbed, unwell. Also, it's like, oh, they're just bitter, and, you know, they're insane, they're crazy, they're unwell. So, and I've seen that played out on my side also, that this is kind of what was used against me. And then after that, well, then they'll try to contain you and like imprison you somehow. And it's like either a mental institution or like imprisonment with the civil magistrate. And then it's like all these covert ways of, instead of like actually killing someone, it's like these are these covert ways where it's like you're practically killed from society. You're kind of, yeah. And then after that, well, I don't know what the next step would be after imprisonment, if they tried to kind of put you in jail to keep you from speaking out and that doesn't work. I don't know what steps someone would take, or if they would take them, or if, I don't know. But that's just what I've seen so far with how these things play out. So discredit via smear campaign. Well, that's where Josh made it to. When he started, I don't know what Josh did and didn't do. My impression is that he probably saw some things, and then once he was a witness of them, maybe he tried to address them, and then they kind of went on the attack. But you know, for him it got to the discredit via smear campaign with these videos, so that no one believes Josh's words. But in my own personal experience, well, I have had the mental institution Baker acted. That was a failed attempt. It was attempted but failed. And then also imprisonment, that was attempted and failed. I mean, maybe you could consider it a success. Like I did go to jail for a day, but then I got out and they eventually just dropped the charges because there wasn't evidence. I think you could say it was successful in that I did go to jail for a day, but I think ultimately they wanted me there longer, so that's why I would say it's a failed attempt, because I was released and then the charges were dropped. So here I'm at now. I don't know what the next step would be, if there is a next step. Should I be concerned for a next step? Am I too careless? So that's where I'm at now. I don't know how I would assess the risk of my situation. Am I being too careless? To what extent I should fear, or how to communicate it without being labeled as dramatic or paranoid schizophrenic. It's like all of these things are happening behind the scenes, covertly, and it's like the active members are appearing as sheep. You know, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, and all these things are happening covertly. So it's like, to speak out against it, it's like, well, that kind of gives evidence to the smear campaign that I'm crazy. So how do I, if I am at risk, how do I communicate it without being labeled as dramatic or paranoid schizophrenic? But then also, like, if there was a risk, I don't know what more I would do, as God already has me in an idealish location outside of the city and outside of the old community. So I'm not in that community anymore. I'm kind of removed from the city. I don't know what, if there was a threat, I don't know what more I would do other than what God has already done and where he's already placed me. So I don't know what, Elon, if you like problem solving and doing risk assessment, I don't know, what is the risk? I didn't know that man's nature could be evil. You're probably more aware of it. What would you think if you were me? And then it's like, I think my primary enemy is Mark Brashear. And then I was thinking to what extent should I fear Mark Bashir? I don't know what more he would do. But then it got me thinking, oh, yep. Also in regards to Mark Bashir, well, I also remember, like, if I start speaking out against Mark Bashir, it's like, oh, you're dramatic, you're paranoid, schizophrenic. Well, I also remember Jay Hubbard speaking out similar claims against Mark Bashir back in the day. I remember being at Tom and Betty's, and Karen stopped by, and the topic of Jay was brought up, and you know, how's Jay doing? That's so sad. Oh, we're praying for him. Yeah, he's speaking crazy things. And Karen mentioned that she was telling Mark, like when it's brought up in the home, that she tells Mark to kind of let it go and not let it bother him, that Jay is speaking all these evil things about Mark, to kind of, you know, be forgiving of it and to overlook it, because it might be because of his cancer medication and that his mind is not right. So I remember Jay Hubbard making similar claims about Mark Bashir, and he was kind of seen as like crazy. And I remember Karen saying like, oh yeah, you know, it is, you know, very tragic, very sad. I tell Mark it's probably, you know, nothing due to him. It's probably just his medication that he's taking for cancer, that it's affecting his mind. He's unwell. So hindsight's kind of 20/20. You kind of see an established pattern. But what is Mark able to do or not do? I don't know. But then I realized, you know, is it Mark I should fear? Or should I fear Elon more? When I first made the comment about how what I was doing, how I was terrified, I made that because I think in my mind I only had an awareness of like the money power, like all these positions of power, and Elon has, you know, he has a position of power because of money, and that kind of played into like, you know, the fear, the risk of what saying those things to a man in a position of power, what that might result in. I only had like money power in my mind when I was, you know, kind of fearful of those things and what the repercussions could be. But then I realized that, Elon, I realized that you owned X, and that you're deep into tech and could hack into probably anything you wanted. And then I remembered you own a satellite company. So I don't know if I was like, if I should have been like aware of this at the time. Like I knew you had these companies, but I guess I wasn't aware of like the implications. Like I know with money you can do a lot of things with power, but I didn't realize the power you already have access to with like X and satellites and being tech savvy, and you could probably tap into anything or hack into anything, or it's like trying to get the attention and slide into the DMs of the man that owns the platform that you that you would send the DM through. That just wasn't in my awareness. I didn't have that in mind, of what you could already do without like lifting a finger, and what you already have access to. So it's like, should I fear Elon more than Mark? And then I thought of this, where you have Jay from Men in Black, where he's using the satellites to like zoom in and spy on, I think it was his wife that he left to work for Men in Black. I don't know, what is it, just data satellites? I don't think it's imaging satellites, but I don't know what you can and can't do with the satellites you currently have networked in our atmosphere. So it's like, you know, should I be worried about Mark? And then I'm like, maybe I should be worried about Elon more. And then it's like, does thinking about this now make me come across as like paranoid schizophrenic, that I think Elon is, or I just recognize that he has the potential of like spying on me in certain ways. But the shift in focus did help, you know, focusing on being worried about what Elon might be doing, I don't think he would do anything harmful. It does bring, comfort towards like what Mark may or may not be doing. And then it's like, realizing that about Elon, like, does that make me come across as like crazy or paranoid schizophrenic? Like, oh, that's crazy that you would think that Elon's doing that. Well, what would you be doing if you were a single bachelor with access to the same resources and this was your type? I Googled what his type was, and it says that he tends to be drawn to intelligent, creative, and intense women, often with backgrounds in the arts, acting, or tech. He gravitates towards high energy, unconventional, or artistic figures who match his intense work ethic. And he likes blondes. So realizing that you're Elon's type and that you might have came across his radar and he has access to these things, what would you do if you were Elon and you were a single bachelor and this was your type? What would you be doing? You just have to, like, I agree, is Elon searching a matter out? Is he looking into me? Is he investigating my ex or ex profile? What, that is crazy to believe that it's a possibility. I can see that. I can understand that. To think that Elon would be looking into my social media, stuff on the internet, the same thing that I'm doing, me Googling Elon, to consider that Elon is doing that towards me with what he has access to. That is crazy to believe to be a possibility. But is it reasonable crazy or irrational crazy? I agree that would be crazy to think that I might have piqued his interest and he's like investigating me. And I agree that that would be crazy, but is it crazy reasonable or crazy unreasonable? Considering who his type is. I don't think it's crazy unreasonable. I think it's a rational thing to consider that it could be a possibility. But when it says that he likes, artistic people, I think I'm the wrong type of artsy. I think he likes dark, moody artsy, and I'm bright, colorful artsy. And he likes cold, metal, futuristic artsy, and I like warm, soft fabric artsy. I think I'm his wrong, type of artsy. I got this shirt black because you're into black, and it's just fucking hot, Elon. I can't, and I shed like a German Shepherd. I can't do it. I can't do the black. I can't do it. I'm already like sweating. I can't do it. I just did it because your shirts are black and I had to match it. I just can't do it. I can't do the black. But I do think I'm the wrong kind of artsy. Here's my artsy. That's Gloria at the public library with her little tote bag. I made her, I think before she was born.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Are there any like public restrooms I can use around here? I have to go so bad.
I don't think so. If
Is there like a public pool here?
there is one, but it's like at the front.
How far is that?
I don't live here. I would just like find a house or like a bush and just, if it's an emergency, like I would do what you gotta do. Yeah, it's just number 1.
Yeah.
I would just like go find a bush.
There's like no like spot in here that I can find to actually do that.
I would go like maybe like behind the houses. Like they have up front is the front doors, and then behind it is like the garages. So I would just like,
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
we've all been there.
No, I have to go so bad.
If they call the cops, I'll cover for you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yep. So that's Gloria, going to the library. I embroidered her name. This doesn't look like your crafty aesthetic. And then here are some cookies I made for her class, and like for the teachers. So I'm kind of like rainbow confetti creative, and I don't think that's the type of artsy that Elon's into. I think I'm the wrong type of artsy. It seems like he likes dark, moody artsy, and I'm like joy artsy. So and here's Barney. These were clothes that I made him. Teddy bear was his theme, so it's like warm, soft, artsy, and I think you like metal, cold, black and gray, chrome artsy, and no color. So I don't know what type of, I think I'm the wrong type of artsy. So even though the other things, it looks like I'm Elon's type, I don't think I'm the right type of artsy. So that might be, I don't know. Should I fear Elon more? Having an interest in Elon is oppressive. I don't even have the freedom to Google him in peace. You know, it's like maybe he's tapped my phone. He could, I'm sure he could do whatever he wanted to do. I put the little tape thing on my laptop camera, and I had it on my phone, but then I'm just like, at the end of the day, like, I have nothing to hide. You can only control so much. People are gonna do what they want to do, and it's like you've seen, I don't know, like God is with me, and it's like, I don't know, it just brings a peace of mind where it's like, even if people are, I don't think he would be doing it for evil intentions, but in the past I did think people were doing it with evil intent, and it's like, if they are, what am I gonna do? Yeah. But for a period of time, it's like I was afraid to Google him. But then it's like, well, if he's tapped my phone and my computer and he's tracking my searches, well, then he's probably interested too. So it's like, if he sees me Googling him, it's not anything he's not already doing. So I shouldn't be embarrassed about Googling Elon Musk when it's like searching him with the resources I have, where it's like he would know that I'm doing that because he's searching me with the resources he has. So, but yep, when I first said that I was terrified, I don't think I had an accurate level of sensed fear in previous videos. When I said, oh, he's the most powerful man on earth, I'm going to say these things, I don't think I kind of had the right amount of awareness and implications of what that could mean when I made those videos. But now that I do, I think it's stupid that you think, or you thought, that working remote is morally evil. So in previous videos, I said, you know, what I'm saying is I'm terrified, and I said that you're a hypocrite with the Kardashev scale. And I don't think I had an accurate view of what you could or couldn't do. But now that I do, I feel like I have to still say something against you. And that's kind of the first thing that came to my mind, was when you were talking about people who want to work remote, and you said it was like morally evil. I think that's stupid that you think wanting to work remote is inherently evil for people. I don't think you mean it collectively. You probably had a certain group in mind when you were saying those things, but you presented it as the whole class. Anyone who wants to work remote, you are evil for wanting to do that. Just because you can work remote, well, for you to want to do that or make an appeal for it, that makes you evil because you're forcing someone else to have to go to work, and you want privilege. I think if it's not needed, it shouldn't be forced just to give an appearance of fairness. I think the people that go to work is because the job is such that they have to go to work. But I agree, I think going to work, going into an office, I think it is more conductive towards getting in the right, you know, mindset to be in work mode and, you know, collaborate. But I think it was stupid that you think or thought working remote is morally evil. Again, I think you probably had a certain type of group in mind when you said that about the collective, so whatever. But as a side note, people have varying measures of good and evil. Like, one could say, oh, that was evil of you to speak evil of remote workers in that way. People have varying measures of good and evil. I don't understand how you have the measure of good character that you have. I think I can kind of, you know, depending on what's been revealed, I can kind of have a balanced view of seeing the goodness in people and seeing, you know, what might be lacking in people. And even, you know, with the remote thing that might be perceived as evil. Well, in your other interviews and character and conduct, there's a lot of good that to me, I think goodness, like goodness when it's tied to the character and nature of God, when I see it, it's like I love it so much that kind of anything else, it doesn't really matter. It's like I value goodness so much. It's like I don't know, that's what my focus is on. That's what I'm kind of attracted to, is like godliness and goodness. And then it becomes like a hyperfixation when you like see it in a little bit and then you kind of see more of it. It's just kind of, that's what your focus is on. It kind of just, the other things kind of don't really matter. And I don't understand how you have the measure of good character that you have, like the goodness that I see in your interviews and in your character and conduct and how you interact with society. I don't understand how you have that measure of goodness in you. Not saying that you don't also contain evil in certain ways that have been revealed or aren't revealed. But I don't understand how you have the measure of good character that you have. And like why you would want to uphold elements for society like free speech. You know, you see, you value humanity, you want to help humanity, you want to do good to humanity. You see the importance of free speech, so why, like, you of your own accord would want to uphold elements of free speech and buy X for that purpose, and so that society still has a platform to speak openly about certain things and not be, you know, taken down or blocked or silenced. I don't know what you would, you know, what would move you to like want to do that of your own accord. Apart from a relationship with God, like I like doing those things, and I think the cause is primarily because of what God has done for me, because of how God has loved me. And it's like I have affections towards God, and then it's like those affections are attached to his character and nature. It's like, well, I also want to do these things because of the association I have with God. I don't understand how you also have these principles at work with conviction, with force, and with works that you're moved to act of yourself, not having a relationship with God. Because I think all of my works now and my words, well, I think I'm moved a lot by God. You know, I'm serving with the strength that God supplies. A lot of my works and my words are propelled by the Holy Spirit because of my relationship with God. I don't understand how you have the goodness that you have and how you're doing the works that you're doing in your own strength. So it's like, how? How is that? I don't, it's hard to reconcile how Elon Musk exists as the most richest man on the planet with the measure of goodness and how he's moved to act in certain ways with his own strength, of his own accord. I like this quote. What I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Fuck them. Like, I don't know, and it's probably just a product of your upbringing and circumstances and what you've experienced and what you've seen. And how it's affected you, but I don't understand how you have these convictions and how you speak on them in a bold way of yourself, apart from knowing God and knowing his character and nature, and knowing that this is like in conformity with like the character and nature of God, and like the heart of God and the thoughts of God and the will of God. And like where you say fuck them, people from my camp would see this and be like, oh, that's evil. You know, what Elon said is evil. This is evil speech from Elon because of the F-bomb. It's like an arbitrary word. It's just a combination of letters. That word can mean anything. It's like the concept fallacy. They don't know what they say, curse words, but a curse word would be like if you insulted someone if you insulted the person and their character. If you say like, you are a liar, that's evil speech. That's a curse. That's you cursing someone. You are a liar, you liar, as opposed to you told a lie. You know, accurately describing someone's words and works and the output, hey, what you did here was a lie, is different than saying you're a liar. Saying you're a liar is like cursing someone, but saying fuck them, that's not. Depends on what you mean by fuck them. But for you to say fuck them, I mean, it's similar to what Jesus said of the, scribes and Pharisees. Now you Pharisees cleanse the outside of the cup and of the dish, but your inside is full of greed and wickedness. They want the appearance of clean. They want the appearance of being good, but it's like they're doing evil. They want to hide their evil deeds and just give the appearance of doing good. Just whitewashed tombs, appearances, lacking the substance of goodness. And Jesus says, woe to you. So I don't like fuck you or woe to you. To me, it's like they're the same. So that's why I can't interact with a lot of people in my old community, because of they don't have senses trained to discern good and evil. So it's like when they say Rebecca's evil for saying fuck, it's like, what's evil? How would you define evil speech? So, yeah. So today, back to my mind being destroyed and then my mind healed. Well, today I think I have wisdom and discernment that others might view as psychic abilities at time. It's like I could hear something and like accurately make a statement about something, and it's like it's clear to me, but to them it's like they don't see how I'm able to like know something so quickly. And it's like I could understand how if they lack the discernment to like judge someone's words, it's like for me to automatically know something, how they would perceive that as like psychic abilities. But it's not psychic abilities. It's just a lot of normative stuff of like pattern recognition, deductive reasoning, knowing manipulation tactics. Also, I think removing a level of hypocrisy and corruption from my own heart helps seeing clearly. Where it says take out the log and then you'll see clearly. Well, I think the more that you're purified of your own corruption and you're pure of heart, you can see things purely. You don't have your own, if you do have like evil motives or remaining corruption, well, you're going to interpret other people through that lens, so you won't be able to see things clearly. as an observer. So I think doing the work on myself and trying, repenting of sin where I need and taking out my logs, well, I think that's also kind of helped me see things clearly. I have Luke 6:42 through 45. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if people are speaking certain things, well, a lot of times false accusations are a confession of guilt. That's like one thing. And if people see a certain work as evil, I don't know. There is a spiritual intuition that might, clairvoyant, psychic. Well, I think there is a level of like spiritual intuition which someone could, depending on how you define psychic or clairvoyant, I don't know if this would be that, but it's subjective. The spirit bears witness, and it's kind of like feelings and intuition, and it's subjective. And the Holy Spirit being a person, he's only one witness. So, and I haven't been able to verify most of it. Like, I do kind of have like, intuition, and it's like I think I might know what's going on behind the scenes, but I can't verify it, and it's subjective. It is kind of like feelings based. So it's kind of just kind of lingers as potential knowledge. It could be true, it could not be true. But thankfully, it's not like I have to make decisions off of that knowledge, like, oh, this affects what I'm gonna do tomorrow. And it's like some situations can be interpreted multiple ways. So if you kind of run into a situation and you're reflecting on it and you're like, I don't know how to interpret, it could be interpreted as this. It's like there's evidence where it's like this could be the case. Or maybe I'm overthinking and it's really nothing. Like, sometimes there are a lot of like coincidences, but sometimes it's like, no, it was just a lot of coincidences and that wasn't the case. So a lot of times there can be an interaction, and it's like things look a certain way, but you could also interpret it as like just it is what it is. And then it's like, I think our natural disposition, it's like we view things according to what's in our heart. So if we have remaining corruption in our heart, we'll view things as evil if we have remaining evil in our heart. But I think also it's like, if there are certain like desires in our heart, and it's like one interpretation would be in accord with your desires, and it's like you would want that to be the case, you kind of have, that kind of makes it, there's a bias there. So if you have certain desires in your heart that would, if there are two interpretations and one interpretation is in accord to the desires of your heart, well, you're going to be biased towards that interpretation. So it is kind of subjective. But I don't know. That's that's the end of today working for Elon Musk, day 4, Neuralink. I don't know if the destruction of my mind and the reconstruction of my mind is helpful for the work that you do. There's a lot of other things that was helpful and that played a part, I think, in healing my mind and mending it and expanding it and growing it and cultivating it. A lot of it has to do with wrong ways of thinking. So yeah, but there's a lot more that goes into, I think, why my mind is the way that it is today. But that's just kind of like an overview for Elon Musk. If you want to give me my dream job, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I can help you with a lot of work that you're doing. I think it's valuable. There's a lot of people that can do the frickin' transmission stuff that I do, and they'll do a better job at it, and I want to do other stuff. And I think it's valuable, and I think it's worth the money. I think you would find it valuable. Yeah. Do you like the shirt? Part of me is like, do you think Elon Musk would sue me for using his image and likeness and his designs from his other shirts? Probably not, considering the nature of Elon and the historic pattern of his works. No, I don't think he would sue me for making this shirt. But if I consider the series of events of my life in my Job season, it was like, yeah, that I could see why that would be the final straw that just makes it so I don't get up from that. That makes it total defeat. If Elon Musk if he sues me over this shirt, where it's like I'm trying to help him, and that's like, that would be like the last straw of calamity in my Job season. But no, I don't think he would sue me over this shirt. It's just, it works because it has the 4 letters. So it's, you have Mars and then the moon, and then Elon is 4 letters. And then I put your face there. Occupy. I did gold. I was going to do green or gold because of like the money thing, but I kind of landed on gold. But I think your mind is gold. So it's hard to talk to about certain things, and it's hard to get good counsel on certain things. So I do think your mind is gold. Would like to be a friend in some capacity. It's the font that you use for your shirts too. There's a lot of stencil fonts, and this is the only one where it's like the Y is slanted. So that kind of made it easily recognizable. But Occupy Elon, it just works, I don't know. I think it was a good idea, so I had to do it. Okay, thanks.